Rich Ryan, welcome back to the show.
I'm back. Happy to be
I'm
here.
back. Yeah, it's been years. It's
It has.
crazy. Yeah, it makes me really excited. I was like, oh man, I've been doing this podcast a long time, so that's cool. I'm not good at celebrating myself, so I was like, oh, kept it alive for I think this is our 6th or 7th year now. Yeah, you were on early days. We were just talking. I think there was like no video, and it was just an audio, and it was probably I'm sure I was stumbling through it. So, yeah, you've lots have happened since then, so I'm excited to get to it. Let's see where to start. I mean, I wanted to. I think I would be remiss. Let's talk about Hyrox for a second
Of
because
course.
you're in it. You're crushing it. You're an elite athlete in that space. You're also a coach, and yeah, like give us the rundown. Like what's going on with Hyrox? Why is it cool? What's it like coaching those athletes? Like on the my coach brain is super interested in that modality. You and I talked a little bit about that when we were in person a few weeks ago. Yeah, so just let's kick it off there. The world wants to know what is going on with Hyrox.
So yeah, so zooming way out, like what Hyrox actually is, it's basically, and how I explain it to people, right? Because that's what I'm trying to dial in my elevator pitch as much as possible because I am getting asked quite a bit. The way I explain it, it is an endurance. It's like a middle distance endurance event mixed with like functional fitness, aka CrossFit, right? So it's 8 runs, and after every 1K run that you have some sort of workout station. It could be ski erg, sled push, sled pull. We can go through all of it if we needed to, but generally it's just kind of a mixed modality endurance event. And the popularity has just been explosive, especially in the past like 2 years or so. It started in, I believe, 2016, 17-ish it's a German company. So it is very popular in Europe. And then it has now spread to the States and has just really been cooking with gas over here. People are interested in it. And I think there's a lot of elements at play when it comes to what makes it desirable for people to do. One in particular is the repeatability. It's much like how athletes will train for a marathon, a half marathon. They have their goals, they know it's objective, and then they can pursue it. But the style of training is a little bit more interesting because of the mixed modalities, and it also rewards athletes who are stronger, right? So it's not just you need to be light, you need to be fast, you need to run a bunch. There is more elements at play, so you can have a greater variety in your training and in your ability levels. So people from all different aspects see it and they're like, oh, I'm like pretty strong and I'm competitive. Let me see if I can get better at endurance. Or it's like, I'm coming from an endurance background. I'm a little burnt out on it. I want to start lifting weights. I want to be a little bit healthier. And let me see if I can be competitive here. So it takes the very competitive people from all different aspects of competition and kind of dumps them into one spot. And then what has been kind of like the unforeseen byproduct is the community aspect. When you do a 5K, a marathon, a half marathon, everyone goes off at the same time. Your friends and family come to watch. They see you once, maybe twice over the course of 20 minutes to 4 hours, and then they finish, and then that's it. Here, there's waves of athletes going every 10 minutes from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you can go there with your friends, with your family, and they can support you. And then once you finish, you can support them. So there's a greater community feel in this event, and it's contained. It's indoors. I don't think I even mentioned that. They're in convention centers, so it's very contained. So you can see somebody the entire time and just give them love and support the whole way. So those two elements, I think, have really what's helped this event really grow into more of that sports lane. And it is just like fun. At the end of the day, it's like a fun event to train for. It's a fun event to accomplish. So it's just like, it might be a bubble, might be the flavor of the week, but it's been a fun ride to be on.
Yeah. but that's okay, super cool. So, but I mean, it's a running event, like 8K. Is that the total volume? Like, so I mean, I didn't, ignorantly, I did not know how much space was between how much running there was, how much space. So you said 1K in between the different modalities. So yeah, I mean, still it's a running event. I mean, 8K, if, we're talking what, 5 miles, give or take. So, okay. Really
Yeah,
interesting.
it's what it boils down to, right? It's what you're doing the most of.
Yeah.
So you can only make up for poor running so much on the stations, right?
Yeah.
And it's definitely an endurance event, right? It takes like the highest end. I think the fastest male time to date is like 53 minutes and change. So it could take you like 53 minutes to closer to 90 minutes. So the aerobic side is massive. And people coming with a big aerobic base, they typically lack some like full on power and strength across all systems. And on the other side, people just really understand quickly. It's like, oh, I need to get better at running. I need to get a bigger aerobic piece here.
Yeah. Okay. Are you, and I mean, obviously the goal is to do it fast, but you're hustling between, like you're running like 1K repeats essentially.
More or less.
Yeah. Okay. And then the stations are the same every time? Like it's always the same or no?
Always the same.
Okay.
Always the same. Yeah.
Cool.
So
you can train for that really
change.
Yeah, you can train for that really consistently. Like I know there's a sled, I know there's wall balls, I know there's X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, okay. I mean, we can run through it real fast. There's 8 different stations. It's 1,000-meter ski erg, 50-meter sled push, 50-meter sled pull. The weights are not that important. They're heavy. It's just like it's hard to. It's not like 1-to-1 at your gym versus here.
Right.
Then it's 80-meter burpee broad jumps, 1,000-meter row, 200-meter farmer's carry, 100-meter walking lunges, and 100 wall balls.
Yeah. Okay. So there's some burly events in between the 1K repeats. Like this is serious. You got to, there is a level of conditioning required to be in the game.
There's a bigger muscular endurance piece than what you would typically get in like an endurance event.
Really cool. Okay. I'm excited. I'm going to try one. I want to get, yeah. I think you were telling me, was it Chicago? Is that the one I should Okay. Yeah, it's cool. I think, and again, just with my like coach hat on and someone who's definitely uses my own training as just like an experimental ground to see like what happens when I mix X, Y, and Z. I've done everything kind of under the sun over the last 20 plus years. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Now that's like a combination of a lot of skill sets that I have, but aren't tuned right now, like the strength piece is there, but then like doing that quickly. And then like the muscular endurance, probably not as much right now. So I'm like really tuned up to think about how to hone that, and really dial that in and get some of that speed back too.
And one thing I didn't mention that is attractive to people who are coming, say, from CrossFit, right? Because it is a blend of both things, that the skill component is pretty small. Okay. And you can kind of go out and figure out most of this stuff. You can turn the screws pretty tight on the skill side to maximize everything, which from the coaching brain side of things makes this really interesting because you can dive in and dial in things further and further and further and further. Where like, if we're talking about triathlon or just running in general, there are elements for sure that you can tighten, but at some point it is just like capacity, how much you can do. Right.
Yep.
And here there's a lot of things where you can improve in. Like if you're just like, I'm going to focus on getting better to ski erg, I want to get stronger for the sled push. Like you can kind of have these things blocked out in your training so you can improve on every little station across the whole race, which makes it pretty fun to like obsess over. And I think people get obsessed with it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, I mean, like you said, I think that I could see a lot of opportunity because what's coming and because And also, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I have not trained for this, nor do I coach athletes in this modality. I would imagine the volume requirements are like relatively moderate compared to like other endurance sports, in terms of just like what's required on the week to really get pretty good at this. Is that correct?
It should be. I've kind
Yeah.
of leaning now into that space. Like, okay, this is, although it's like fairly long, it's not long for an endurance event, 60
Yeah.
minutes, right?
It's not a
So like,
marathon.
it's not a marathon, it's not an
Yeah.
ultra. So like, it's not a 70.3. It's
Yeah.
so being sharp matters a lot more than
Hmm.
the total volume that you're taking on.
Yeah.
And because it's coming from these two different worlds, one of I think like triathletes really kind of like this idea, and
Hmm.
CrossFit, both of those domains emphasize volume a lot. Like the event itself is basically how much you can endure. So
Sure.
we're,
Yeah.
we're seeing people swing a little bit too far into the volume side of things, and because there's so many modalities, like if you're running, you're basically hamstrung on how much you can do physically,
Right.
right? Like there's going to be a point where you're going to break down. Here it's like I can do a bunch of work on a bunch of machines, or do some strength training, or do all this and that, or do like these metabolic conditioning workouts, and it can go too far. And when you're preparing
Yeah.
for a 60-minute race, you need to be ready to go hard, not just
Yep.
how much you can do. So I
Sure.
think we're seeing a lot of athletes kind of swing a little bit too far into the volume side of things. And
Interesting.
I think as it progresses from a sport side of things, it will kind of come back toward the middle and being more prepared for like optimal performance. And that's kind of where I've landed this season. I'm 39 years old. This is not like I've been doing stuff like this for a long time, so my base is really big.
Yeah.
But I tried the volume stuff and I just couldn't recover well. So I just like pulled it back and be like, okay, let's focus on the performance, the intensity, and my results have gotten like exponentially better.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine too. I mean, it's still young enough that you're collectively still trying to figure out what is the best approach from a preparation perspective. It's enough, got to get enough like seasons as a modality under your belt for everybody to be like, well, this worked or this didn't, and kind of find that, like, we got a lot of data on running, for instance, right? Like we got a lot of people who have studied from the coaching side of things, like how to prepare for any number of whatever the distance is. You got to get some of that with Hyrox to be like, yeah, this works, this doesn't.
There's a way to do it in like
Yeah.
in running more or less. Where
Sure.
here those principles apply, but they're
Yeah.
not one to one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
taking them and trying them and seeing what's valuable, what's not is definitely like, yeah, the sport's not that mature
Yeah.
in terms of the athletic and the sport side of things.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I'm very intrigued. I think it's really interesting to watch as just a student of the sport, in terms of just a student of endurance athletics, and as somebody like yourself who spent a lot of time in this space and different modalities, and I mean ultimately, uh, committed ourselves both professionally and personally to these spaces. It's really cool to see it evolve and to think critically about what is the application from a sports science perspective, and what does it look like to prepare, and how do you take what does it look like when these different athletes from different modalities come in and apply those skills and that type of base to a new sport, and to see how it unfolds, and that's just really cool because it is happening in real time. And you're seeing this more than I am, obviously, but just even in like articles I'm reading and stuff, you're like, oh, interesting. Like this is what it looks like when a, Ironman athlete comes in and starts to switch it up and do this, and what
Mhm.
happens? How do you adapt those skills? And so super, super cool. I'm really fascinated just as someone who's constantly interested in what it looks like to continue to evolve as an athlete. And that's part of the fun too, right? Like I think the evolution piece, and I know you've done a lot of that yourself, right? Through lots of different types of things to land here, and I'm sure you'll continue to evolve and apply that. So, um, yeah, what's that? Let's get a little bit more in, I guess, into like the personal story side of things. What's that evolution looked like for you, or or more specifically, like what's it been like to continue to evolve? I know you've been a very accomplished runner. You were in obstacle races at a very high level. There's been lots of evolutions there. Just walk me through what's that kind of, felt like, both like physically and mentally, to continue to adapt and evolve and stay in it at a high level.
Yeah. So it was always the endurance piece was always something that has been present. And when I first graduated from undergrad, I was a runner collegiately. And then I found the weight room like shortly thereafter with the hope to just improve my running, right? Just to improve my body composition and improve and hopefully turn that into to better running. And as things did progress, I was doing this was probably 2009-10, and at the time I was kind of there was no real competitive space for someone who wants to do endurance with a blend of strength. So it was just endurance, right? It was like road racing, move up to the marathon, whatever that really looks like. But it was basically just running. And I was doing these workouts at the gym at just like an LA Fitness, because this is like right at the beginning of CrossFit. And this was also the beginning, and if you recall this, where it was like very biohacky at the time. Like people wanted like shortcuts to things, and like there was like ways to biohack your nutrition and ways to biohack like your strength training and hit high intensity strength training, high intensity interval training, right? What was kind of emerging as this way. It's like, you don't need to spend 90 minutes at the gym. You can do 20 minutes and get the same type of result. So I started training that way. I don't even know if it was from a time perspective, but more because it was like endurance-y. Like it was like strength training that was a little bit more ramped up. And while doing that at LA Fitness, I had someone mention to me about CrossFit, like how CrossFitters were back then. They would tell you about CrossFit, So someone grabbed me and was like, "Hey, have you heard of CrossFit?" I hadn't. And as soon as I ended up finding it, I was pretty hooked on that because there was a bit of a competitive outlet and it emphasized both of the things. But at the time, I was not going to give up on running. And CrossFit athletes, they are just like have a ton of muscle mass. And that was not really the way that I wanted to train or kind of like transform my body composition. So I kept running all the way through it. And then eventually Spartan Race became a bit of a competitive outlet where I thought it was a blend of strength training and endurance training, which it is more than a half marathon. But really, when you boil that down, it turns into a trail run with some grip strength, right? Like you've done some Spartan, haven't you?
I have, yeah. That's a good way to describe it. I hadn't put that final point on it, but that totally resonates. Having done them, yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's trail running and like a little bit of strength, not a ton, but like you can't be frail out there, but it's not the main component.
Yeah.
And from going, but it was just again the evolution as you're asking about. It was like, okay, taking the endurance principles and with the strength and seeing how that total volume works out and then moving it into like the trails and like grip strength things. And it was just more of a different carrot and a different process to engage in. And that is something that has been really a major game changer for me, is understanding like how much I do enjoy engaging in process and like kind of understanding and figuring things out and really testing, retesting, and coming at it from this approach of how can I get better and how can I kind of double down on that and where does it go once I'm like scratching an itch, so it's almost like a little bit more of it's a little bit more creative to me, where one of the major kind of compasses that I would follow in endurance training was Daniel's formula, right? And that was always this thing that was like, okay, this is just how you do it. Because like you said before, there is data, there's evidence, and having this evolution come up and be like, it was almost like a paradigm shift for me. It's like, wait, is Daniel's formula not exactly right all the time? So being able to take to like break out of that box and then to be able to look at things the way that I wanted to approach it and figuring things out on my own has been really, really fun. And then we had that same thing happen here in Hyrox, where there was a long period of time, especially as a coach, an athlete of myself, where I would look for answers elsewhere. I'd be like, okay, there has to be ways to do this. I'm going to try to like get on the forums, get books, and just try to like read of what has worked for people to try to find answers for what I was looking for. But this may have been like 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe even further, where I was like, I'm no longer just going to consume content around what I should be doing, and I'm just going to figure it out on my own. I'm going to start to like blaze my own trail for how to train for something and how I like to train for it and come up with my own kind of methods around it. And that, in terms of evolution as coach and programming, has been like kind of freeing, that there is no like one way and that I can explore. And that's what's been really helpful as I have gotten older as an athlete, that I am not like beholden to any methodology. And following sports that are not like traditional has really kind of opened that up for me. And I think that's what's been just really, really exciting about this whole space.
Yeah. I love that. I you mentioned the process piece, and I know that's one of the things that you and I, kind of have in common and connect on, is that process is really the answer is in the process, and we are, and you mentioned it even earlier with the early days of CrossFit and, kind of the biohacking. And I think, we're still in a version of that, right? It's like, what's the pill or the thing or the quick, like, surely there's an answer that is not just consistency, right? Like, surely, like, everyone wants, to think and believe that there's something that we just haven't found the right article or the right thing that's going to be the thing that allows us to shortcut what everybody else is saying, which is all that matters is just find the process and stay in it forever. Like, that's really the only answer. But like, I don't know, like, yeah, I mean, expand on that for me. Like, what does that look like for you? I talk about that a lot. I mean, I talked about that a lot on this podcast, as well as, all over the place. But yeah, I want to hear it from you. Like, why is that important? Why does it matter? Why can't I just go try to, find a bunch of supplements and try to, I don't know. And I'm, whatever, supplements are fine. I'm just talking
right.
It proverbially, like, why is all, why should I care about the process and not just chasing down the thing that's going to help me shortcut stuff?
Right. I mean, and we talked about this when we had met up in person, about what the reward you actually experience from the process. And it's not the outcome necessarily. I mean, it's great to have an outcome that does kind of meet these goals, whatever. You have this like shiny object out there. It's like, I want to be on the podium. I want to like win this race. I want to be the best, whatever those really superficial outcomes are. But the value that I find in this is the pursuit and like understanding what is required and what is possible in terms of the effort. And in that process, there is, for me, it's always about like, what can I do to enhance, whether that is through a greater amount of effort or through smarter effort or through just like refining what has worked. And those things, those takeaways apply across the board for me. It's not just athletics. It's not just coaching. It's more like mindset. Like, if I can do this, if I can engage in this process here and see success as an endurance athlete, it's like, that should work in business, or that should work in my relationships. Like, that should work in really any other aspect of life that I want it to work with. Mm-hmm. And because there's no reason that a process or like being mindful around an approach won't find you some kind of result that you can take and augment and change along the way. So that value in the pursuit is what is the byproduct. It's like, okay, the confidence that I can gain from it and how I can apply that across the board is more of a mindset around like a life philosophy rather than chasing this like superficial goal.
Yes, man. Hallelujah. Yeah, I mean, it's so great to hear you say that. And I knew that was, something that we have connected on over the years, but for me, I have recognized, and this did not come, I don't want to paint the picture that I have always felt this way or always seen it, but with athletic maturity, the biggest takeaway for me has been, to your point, that fitness is like a byproduct of consistent exercise, right? Like the thing that I get from consistently engaging in the process far outweighs fitness, right? Like I always say, like fitness is a really cool byproduct of consistent exercise, but it's actually not the thing that I like that's most important to me, right? Like a fit body is great, like, and it is valuable, but like you said, it's the ability to apply those principles to every area of my life, and I know that like when I do that, it's truly the thing that allows me to be the person I want to be in all these other areas of my life, right? It allows me to be the husband that I want to be. It allows me to be a friend. It allows me to be a business partner. It allows me to be a leader, right? Like I know for a fact, like I've gotten most of those skill sets, not that I've mastered them, but I've gotten them from just engaging in the process and not worrying about, not focusing on the outcome-based goals of exercise, of training. And again, that wasn't always the case. Like I raced for podiums, I raced for wins, I trained, like for sure I was that guy. So again, I don't want to paint the picture that like I have reached nirvana and I just like have, but I mean, I do, it's important. I think it's important to say, right? Because that's not why. Well, let me ask the question: like, I don't think that's why people start these endeavors, right? Would you agree? Or how do we like compartmentalize that, or help people see that earlier? I guess maybe is my goal.
No, I like generally the thing I hear the most when talking to athletes who do want to participate in this is that they are like inherently competitive and they want to see what they're capable of, right? They want to they want to maximize whatever potential they have. And I think that is just a different way of saying engaging in process, right? Like they feel like there's something unfulfilled and they want to figure out how to fulfill this potential or to feel satisfied with who they are as like a person or athlete,
Yeah.
And I've definitely been on that route as well. Like I've had a very poor relationship with competition in general for maybe not the majority of my life at this point, but probably the majority of my life at this point, where if I didn't perform well, what did that mean about me as a person? Right.
Sure.
And it means nothing. It means nothing. And it means just like you haven't found a process, or you're worried about the wrong things, or in my own journey, like it's just like unhealthy. And then it's like shying away from competition, or not wanting to do competition, or not wanting to better myself because the outcome that I'm getting what meant more to me than anything else. So having that shift of like, okay, let's just see what we can do if we follow a certain path and do something that like I can believe in has been like just better for my mental health, Yeah. I just think I don't know. And I think that there's like just that pulling apart of what the outcome means to a person, to a personality it just takes some work. Just takes some work, some time to like reflect.
Yeah. I want to go a little deeper there because I think that's been, from the coach's perspective, that's often like the biggest hurdle to overcome is when it's kind of like not if, but when a race, when an event doesn't go as planned, right? When something goes sideways, they don't feel good. They the wheels fall off. And then they make they make that mean something about them, right? Like the effort, they didn't do enough. The effort wasn't enough. They didn't. So what's the process for building a mindset that allows you to stay in it? Because it's really disruptive. And I know you've been there. We've all been there as coaches, and we've certainly been there as athletes. Like I have more shitty days than I have good ones. So yeah, like what I'm curious to get your take on just going a little bit deeper into like how to stick with it and not make that mean something about us and the sum total of the effort kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in hearing your side of this too. The thing that kind of blew the top off of this for me was the shift in how I think about or consider what talent means and what that is. Right? Like I think that I've been here for sure, and I think a lot of people want talent to be the ultimate decider of where a ceiling is, right? And maybe there is some things in terms of talent that are like there's intangibles, but I don't necessarily think there is talent. And removing this talent label that is undefined, it's abstract. Like, what does that even mean? And is one person given something that another person has? Is a baby born with a higher VO2 max than another baby? It's like, I don't know. Yeah. Like it seems like no, but like maybe.
Right.
So once that is removed and we replace the talent with the term like knowledge, like we don't have the know-how to get the adaptations that we want or to get the results that we want because we have not gotten to that point in the process, right? So having a poor result is just a time to reflect, to see where you are in like your story arc and where you need to then go, right? Because if it is something in your training, in your lifestyle, or whatever it is, you're just bumped up against a temporary ceiling that you can then reflect on, change something in your process to get past that. It's learning. It's not like I didn't win because that guy's more talented than me. It's like, no, that guy was a cyclist for 25 years. He's a high-end endurance athlete and you weren't. You were a baseball player or whatever. That doesn't mean you can't get what he has. It just means you're not there and you have not come across the knowledge to understand how to get there. Right? Because there is a roadmap somewhere that person followed, and it's not necessarily inherent talent, And we can get to certain things like at the very tip of the spear, right? Like Olympic runners, they're all kind of built the same, where like their levers probably matter versus like there is probably something that they've been born with at the very, very tip, but no one's at the tip. Right.
So such a small percentage of the people that are engaged in what we're talking about.
Yes. So for the masses, like even thinking about talent and projecting what other people have that you don't is just like just capping what you're capable of.
That's really interesting. That's such a great point. I honestly had never really. I love the talent, replacing talent with knowledge. I hadn't put that fine a point on it, or I hadn't really thought about it through that lens. But that is, that's such a great and fair point that I do think that we naturally project. When we say, "Oh, this guy, he must just be talented or be," and there are differences. We're built different. But to your point, unless you're at the pointy end of the spear, which is literally a handful of people, right? Like if we're talking about, the truly elite athletes, it's whatever, it's 100 people in the world or something. Right. And so the answer can't be talent, right? There is this, and I wonder too, if the reason that is frustrating is because the real equalizer is just time. Right. What we don't want to admit is that it probably just takes more time than we want to get the results that we're looking for.
Or potentially time past, like that they have spent time that you can't regain to get to the place where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right. And athletics, right, there's going to be a physical peak, But think about it from business, in like a business standpoint, same kind of thing. It's like, maybe there's a thing we can argue, like maybe there's an IQ element, or there's something along that level that like people will have naturally that others might not. But most people not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
They're just like,
Well,
they're
we
just
know
trying harder.
I read there's been lots of studies done on this, like categorically people that are, I'm going to use success in quotes, but if you project out the people of the world who have built the businesses that we think about, we're like, oh, those people are successful. It's people that have changed the landscape of business. They're not smart. Like categorically, they have a lower IQ. Not that they're not intelligent, not that they're not, but like they're not geniuses. Like to your point, they just have put in a heroic level of effort that and set in that effort for an amount of time that most people aren't willing to put up with. Right. And I think it's the same thing in sport, right? Where you're just like, it probably just takes more time and more effort than we want to admit. And that's frustrating.
And when you feel like you're putting in that type of effort, I want to say when athletes or when are putting in that type of effort and they think that they are doing as much as anybody possibly could, they're just missing there's levels, right?
Yeah,
they're not seeing, and even at the very tip of it, like that's what's separating. It's like there's levels in what people are willing to do. And it's not always just like being a hammer and trying to go harder. It's about like, again, back to process, reflecting on what's actually working and then doing things that are going to get you like marginal gains across all sorts of different avenues.
Yeah. Yeah. It's probably also to like the knowledge versus talent piece. It's the understanding of where to allocate time and energy to actually move those levers, right? Like it's also not just time spent going hard. Right.
Doing
I'll
stuff.
use that as an example.
Right.
Yeah. Like I'm not, you're like, oh, I'm doing all I can do. Like there's probably lots of pillars when we're like truly honest with ourselves, like collectively, we're just not applying that knowledge piece, right? It's recovery, it's sleep, it's intensity allocation, the list goes on. And that's a hard thing to be honest with too, right? Like to your point, I think you're like, oh, I'm doing all I can. Like I'm training as much, like, these are all the hours I have and it's all I think about. And it's all and like, it's still just one, like you said, there's levels, and two, like, are you doing it in the right direction? Is that time being allocated to the right thing? There's a lot going on there.
Right. And like we'll just keep it in the physical space. Like if you just don't like doing zone 2 and like you're just doing zone 4 all the time, you're like, oh, I'm just crushing. It's like, yeah, but you're not doing the one thing that like you don't like doing. And like, you're like, you can make justifications around it. Yeah. Something even like was like doing your nutrition or like diving into supplementation or whatever it is. Like there's something that you probably just don't want to do.
Yeah.
So like you justify around it.
It's probably the thing that you should do the most of, right? Like that tends to be the case, right? It's like the thing that we're most resistant.
Yeah. At least find out.
Yeah. I know I think that's the case with me, right? I try to like check myself, and I'm better at catching it like in real time now, where I can be like why don't I want to do this? Like, oh, it's probably because it's the thing that I actually need to be doing, right? Like why don't I, whatever. And there's that little bit of resistance that happens in business, and I see it. I'm like, actually, no, like I'm going to use this as a cue to lean in. Like this is probably a sign that I should actually do more of this.
Discomfort and just
like going easy. I mean, it's it's fun to crush hard workouts, and like so that's always my check, right? I'm like, why am I putting off this like easy run, and I'm way more pumped to like kill myself tomorrow, right? So like, let me use that as a cue to actually make sure I show up for this easy run.
There is let me just make sure I'm getting the there's this book called the War of Art, by Stephen Pressfield.
Okay.
And he coins this as the resistance. Like when you feel something that is trying to make you not like that sparks like this discomfort and makes you want to stop or to move away. That's when it's like, that's where you should go. Like when the resistance is present, it's like you're going into something that you are not sure what's going to happen after. So like you have to lean toward it. and the resistance is like always there. And I think he was he's an author, right? So I think he's writing about like the creative process. And I feel this in business often. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen there. And then I start an endeavor and it's like, I don't really want to, but then it's like, oh, that's the resistance there. It's like, I need to find out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good check, right? Like those areas, even if we like take stock of those areas of resistance in our lives, those could be, I think that's a good way to, I don't know, it almost highlights where we need to lean in, because we choose, it's the human condition, right? Like that's like the curse of being really smart mammals, is that we choose the path of least resistance, right? We have the ability to like self-navigate, and we don't have to go kill our food if we don't want to. So we can just do the easy thing basically all the the
Yeah. It's nice to be comfortable. Feels good.
Yeah. And so we choose comfort. And like, yeah, I think just using that as a lens to be like, maybe there's something here. Right. And I've actually done that. I've made like a list of like, where are the things that I like, they're friction points. And it's been like I get there and I'm like, we'll close that door. Close that and I just write it down and then I just tactically see if that's actually areas I should lean into,
Right.
Lo and behold, like they're the places, right? Like it yields results.
And it's probably something you already know, right? It's probably connected to something that you've done in the past. You're like, oh yeah, that's an area that I've struggled with in the past. And this is connected to that same exact area. So no kidding. Here it is again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't anything new or groundbreaking. I was like, oh yeah, no, that's I've done that before.
This is how I've been.
Yeah. It makes me think about too, the value in pursuing excellence, and this kind of, there is this tendency to chase the latest, greatest, kind of chase the gold, thing or whatever, and the shiny thing, the object. And you had said this, or talked a little bit or mentioned this before we started to record this episode. And it's something that I've really become like fascinated with. I want to do things really well, right? And I want to understand them. It makes me think about it when we're talking about like knowledge versus talent. But break that down for me. I'd love to hear like your perspective on that, on the value of pursuing excellence and not just, doing it for the sake of doing it or going hard because you can. I mean, I think there's lots of, areas this is really pervasive, I think, is like a standard for how we live. So yeah, break that down for me. Let's go deeper there.
I actually heard this from like just that actual coined term from it's from like a coffee roaster who makes this bean, who produces this variety of coffee. It's called Eugenioides, and the Eugenioides plant, it only yields like 1 cup of coffee. It's like a small coffee plant. It's like very delicate, and the yield is very low. And so there's only one producer in the entire world that does it, because from monetarily, it makes no sense, right? They do sell these beans for like hundreds of dollars for like 4 ounces or whatever, but like you're still not going to make your money back. But he had this idea of like the pursuit is what is valuable there. So like having it, and like that brings value somehow. And in that case, it is just about like the actual bean itself, right? The actual like output. To me, this is like, and it just got me like really kind of thinking. It's like, wow, this is really no benefit for him to do this. It's just bringing something that is great into the world, and like this pursuit that is never ending. And that's one thing that I think is pretty frustrating when thinking about any pursuit in this terms, is that it's not going to end. There is no outcome here, right? So it's like this more or less like a journey that now I've kind of had to wrap my head around, because I have leaned into this like mindset of pursuit and been doing it for however long, for several years, that it's like, oh, okay, like this is just going to be me from now on. And it was almost like an acceptance of who I am as a person, and there is not going to be like a shiny object, an outcome, and I'm never going to get there. I'm going to progress myself as a person, as an athlete. Like it's showing as in business. It's going well. Just as like the person I am, I'm like happier with that, but there's like no end in sight, and there's never going to be, which is like which is like hard to grapple with. Right. So it's almost like a change in like the ethos, like a life, like how I think life is more about this pursuit rather than where's it going to go? So sometimes I have these questions. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? Right. Like in Hyrox, the World Championships is coming up in June and I want to win, but I'm like, why do I want to win? Like, I know it, like nothing's going to end here. Right. It's like, but it's just like a step in the process, and there's going to be great learning that comes from it. And it's going to be like a testing point to the process that I had to learn a little bit more. And winning is great, right? It's just like, just feels good. But yeah, so I think just like changing how like this concept is going to affect the rest of my life has just been like a kind of a weird spot. Just because there's no end.
I love that. I've also thought about that a lot. It's probably been, it sounds like the same for you. It's probably been one of the most like transformational mindset shifts that I've made, that I've applied to every area of my life, is just like this long game view, and that the only goal of growth is to continue to grow.
Right.
And that's very frustrating, right? Like it is, I find myself, it's hard to settle into that, right? Like the only goal is to continue. Like there's benchmarks, but then immediately on the other side of that, I've also found that just really liberating, right? Like it's really changes the way I think about, like it changes my energy in the days, right? Like when I wake up, it's just a brick, right? It's a brick in the wall. Like it doesn't, all I can do is today. And I hope I get to do it tomorrow and rinse and repeat forever. And that, I don't, there's a piece of that I'm like, geez, this is relentless. But also largely it's been really freeing, like, cause it takes a lot of the pressure off too, right? Not that I don't, like you said, not that you don't have goals. It doesn't absolve us of reaching. But I think it just like, it flattens the pressure curve, right? Like when you look at this as a spectrum for like world championships, is hopefully you get the opportunity to live a very long life. It is such a minuscule waypoint in the path to all of the things that you'll do with your life. So like show up and kill it, right? Absolutely. Also, it's flattened, right? It's not the huge peak that we think that it might be. It extends that timeline such that like everything is at a much smaller scale, right? The big wins in business, the big wins in athletics, the big wins, those are cool. They're tiny little, like, boop, and then we're back, right? So I don't know, like what's that shift felt like for you? Again, frustrating or or freeing or what?
Yeah, I don't know if I feel frustration from it. It's exciting that I know that I'm always going to have something that is going to feel fulfilling with a pursuit. That's cool. Like it doesn't matter whatever it ends up being, right? Like if it's business, if I like get into cooking, I'm bake bread now. That's cool. I could pursue that.
Seen your Instagram posts. You seem like you're killing it. I'm really jealous. I'm not
doing great on the bread front.
I struggle with patience and bread. So that's a pursuit that I need to try to sort out.
I encourage it. And, but there's this, I had something there that I've lost now. Like this idea of that. I used to have this idea that like there would be, like the goals along the way, that like there's going to be a point where like I've made it or whatever that means. And from where I was to where I am now, I think where I was, I'd be looking at myself now, I'd be like, oh my, I did it. But I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I've accomplished like anything necessarily, even though I have accomplished quite a bit in like objectively.
Right.
So like that and the thought of the process along the way, like it's challenging to have the wherewithal to like feel good about where I am, and as opposed to like always being dead set on where I need to go or what I need to do next. Like the pursuit is a little bit all encompassing, so that I kind of like, so the blinders are set forward, and I don't think I really appreciate where I've been. And I don't know if it matters. Like, I think it feels good.
Yeah.
Like, I think, and I think from the outside, like I get positive encouragement from my wife, who's so supportive, and just my family in general, and then just like people around who've seen. But like, I'm kind of like, wow, what are we talking about? Like, we're still going forward. So that is, I don't know if it's frustrating. I don't know if it's bad. But,
yeah, sure.
That's a good like, point. Is that something that matters? Like, does there need to be this fulfillment happening along the way? Or is just like you said, the fulfillment is just like stacking the bricks, what you're doing right now. Yeah. So I don't really know.
I think that's the freeing part is, for me, is it takes it, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves of like, is it right now? Like, am I as maximally happy as I can be? Am I, and like, maybe or maybe not, but if the joy is really in the pursuit, it takes a lot of pressure off of any singular instance. You're like, yeah, like today's good. I don't know. It feels not that I'm not happy, but we expect these like big swings, right? I think we put a lot of pressure on, like, I wake up and like, I want to be happy and joyful and all, and like, and if I'm not, I'm doing it wrong, and like quotes and all that. And I'm like, I mean, like you said, like, doesn't matter. Like, maybe it's just another brick. Yeah. Like, I think it's fine to be fine, and just, and do the work that's in front of you. Right. Like, just focus and enjoy the moments, the shitty ones and not, and move forward. I've heard too, like what you're describing. It's just, it'll be my life's work to try to be cool with where I'm at right now. I am always forward looking, and find myself in what you described often. I heard it described as the striver's dilemma, right? Which is the people that strive. The constant dilemma is that because you're not where you want to be, or because you're not where you can be based on maximizing your full potential, we struggle to recognize that where we're at right now is still valuable, right? Like, the sum total of the effort still matters. And there's always this like push and pull. I don't know. What's your, you made a face that makes me think that it's kind of,
it's kind of the same thing, right? It's like, is that a problem?
Sure.
It's like, if we feel bad about ourselves and it's like stopping us from doing things for moving forward because we're not feeling like like maybe it feels like we're treading water or whatever, then it's a problem. But like, if you are like feeling fulfilled in your everyday, like, then what is the dilemma? Like, why is this, why must we have this like rejoice? Would we rather have a party, or would we rather just like put in work?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, like the reward is just getting the opportunity to do the thing again.
Yeah, and do it better.
Yeah. That's really good.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be like, I don't feel negatively toward myself when I'm doing this. And naturally talking about failure then is like, I don't feel negatively across any of my failures. I almost don't even recognize them as failures, because if I did, it would feel terrible. I would just feel like I was failing all the time and I was not doing anything right. But it's just like, okay, this is like, this worked better than this other thing. Nothing is going to take me from here to like the top of the mountain in like one jump, and it's not going to sink me to like the bottom of the ocean and the same thing. So it's like the reflection of where we are. I don't know how much celebrating that needs to be, as long as it's not feeling like, as I don't feel bad about it. So I don't see why it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's, that you did that encapsulates more succinctly what I was starting to get at, which is just like feeling of like, I should be really happy, or, like we ride the wave too much. Right. And it's just like you said, like if you're fine with it, like I think you could just relinquish a lot of the pressure you put on ourselves. Like, and specifically, I mean, we've talked about business and athletics, and, I always have a foot in both sides, and I know you do well. And the same rules or the same takeaways apply, or they're applicable to both areas. Which is just like, I mean, just like show up and do it again, and be okay with like just continuing to learn lessons and apply them, and like and be in that pursuit mode versus chasing the outcome.
What's your take on success?
Oh man. Yeah. Whew, okay. Yeah, like how would I define it?
I suppose so. Like, how do you feel about it in like your own pursuits? Like how, like, I guess just, yeah. How do you define it? How do you feel it?
Uh-huh.
Does it matter?
That's a great question. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. Yeah. I mean, it is, I have been someone historically who has been a little fraught with whether or not I am quote unquote successful, like just honestly, like, I'm like, because I know I'm giving a little backstory to like get to a point, which is I know that I'm capable of a lot, meaning like I know that I haven't tapped my full potential, and I'm hungry to do that. Right. I've always been hungry to do that in athletics. I'm hungry to do that in business. I'm hungry to do that in my relationships. Right. Like I can be a great friend, and I can be a great partner, and I can, right. Like I know that I have a lot to give, and I know that I can make a great impact. So whether or not I'm actually doing that has kind of driven me crazy at times, and very much so in the business and athletics side of things. Luckily for me, I have shifted my mindset, and to our like kind of point earlier, I don't give it, I'm not like weighed down by it on a daily basis. I'm committed to making an impact on the world for as long as I get the opportunity to be here. And I'm committed to the long game. And I don't, while I have things I want to accomplish, right? I got goals physically, I have goals in business, I have goals, and they're real and they're big, and they require a ton of input and a ton of effort. I show up every day, and just brick by brick, and I don't put a ton of pressure on each day. Not to say that I don't have stressful days or things go sideways, like for sure, right? We all have tough seasons. But yeah, I mean, to your question specifically, like I now define success in any pursuit as my ability to stay connected to the process and show up consistently in alignment with my values. Right? Like success for me is not letting the pursuit of my goals derail me from or pull me away from like how I want to show up in the world. Because what that looked like for me when I was hyper focused on success, I was a shittier person. Like I wasn't a good person to myself. I wasn't a good person to my wife. I wasn't a good friend. I wasn't a good leader. Like and that's not what I want, right? Like I want to leave an impact because I showed up in a way that helped people reach their full potential. That's also what I'm committed to, right? I want to give more than I take. I want to add value before I ask for value. And so, yeah, success for me now, like I have again, I'm very clear about this. I'm like, yeah, like I want to crush it. Like I have revenue goals for business. Like they're not fluffy goals. Like they're real things that would certainly be defined classically as like successful on paper. But I the way that I show up in pursuit of those goals looks very different, and that's what I stay focused on. And I'm like, okay, if I can do that, that's successful. Because I could also die tomorrow. So
Okay.
like, so for me, I'm like success. It has to be more intrinsic because if I don't get the opportunity to reach those goals, I don't want that to mean that I wasn't successful. Right.
It kind of goes back to the outcome based thinking, right? Like success
Mm-hmm.
as an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would stop people the same way that it would stop them from competing. If they're not going to win, they're not going to compete. If you're not going to, like, being successful is not an outcome, right? It feels like an outcome, but it's not. It's way
because
more
it's always
abstract than a
moving
podium.
too, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure you've had I'd love to hear your take on it too. But like, that was the big turning point for me. Is I had a few instances in my life, luckily, where I did accomplish my goals, and I on paper I was like, I did the thing that was successful, right? I like exited a business or won races and it didn't feel, just on the other side of that was like nothing, right? I was like I killed myself to try to get these things, and it just didn't give me much of anything, right? And I was like, and I just thought that was it. I was like, oh, finally success. And literally within minutes, right, seconds, it was like, now what? Now what do I? And I was like, oh, I got to change this. Like this can't, like this can't be the pursuit. Is to always be essentially let down by the thing that you're working so hard to achieve.
Right.
And it took me a couple.
It's not going to fill it.
No, it took me several instances of that, unfortunately, but like over a relatively long period of time. But I did like slowly that, my mindset shifted where I was like, and it started to shift just in route to those things. I was like, oh, I remember this last experience, and I might have the opportunity to be successful, like i.e. reach this goal again, accomplish this goal. Can I adjust so that I don't get so heartbroken on the other side of it, right? So that I don't get let down. So yeah, what's your give me yours. What's your take on success?
Yeah, it's similar stuff. Like it's hard. Like athletically, it's just so much easier than personally to define it. But it's typically outcome based, and oftentimes I'll ask athletes who I'm coaching before a race, like, what is a successful result? I don't know if I use result. What's a successful race look like for you? Mm-hmm. Right. And it's not like, and I steer them directly away from hard outcomes. Like, oh, I want to run 60 minutes. I want to get on the podium. It's like, you can control like your place almost not at all. Right. Like you can't control what other people are going to do necessarily. Yeah. Like you can compete, whatever, but like, what in this process will you come out and feel okay with? Right. So I feel like that pretty often in terms of business and personal stuff. Like, did I do what I wanted to do in terms of getting to this place? Or did I like drop the ball somewhere if it is like one of those, the resistance that's pulling me back? Like, did I let that win or did I persevere? Right. Like, and it's not this hard reflection point, but usually it's in some sort of, like in a loss. Like after I've lost something, I can look and be like, did the resistance beat me here? Or was I able to win past that? That to me is success, right? Like if I am able to put my best effort forward, like realistically, then I'm like, okay, I'm cool with it. Is there something I could do better next time? Of course, on both sides. So I think it's more that just like making sure that I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of what I'm doing. And that's when I feel like the best. It's like, okay, cool. Like this is how I want to show up for myself. And if I can do that, like that's success for me.
Yeah.
And the outcomes typically follow. The outcomes will typically follow.
100%. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I mean that I very much is the like yeah, being proud of yourself, how you show up. That's a if you can check that box, that's a win, right? I
Yeah.
think ultimately, like in life, yeah, I would definitely say that's part of the kind of success definition for me. Um, yeah, I mean, because if you chase those things too at the expense of not being proud of yourself, I mean, to what end, right? It really diminishes that outcome. Like if it's at all cost, it just doesn't. Yeah, I don't think it's not worth it. I would say. Now there's people that would argue, but
Yeah, I mean, like you might be able, like people who have that, they might be able to accomplish more in terms of like objective things, like what I like that, like the Kobe Bryant, like the Tom Brady mentality of just like always wanting and needing to win. Like to what end?
mm-hmm.
Um, Most people they'll either accomplish it, it won't fill them, like how you mentioned, and they stop the pursuit, which is a major
Mm-hmm.
loss, or
Right.
they don't try, or they like take an L and they do the same thing. And they try to find somewhere else. Like maybe I'm not talented enough. Maybe I'm in the wrong sport. Maybe I'm in the wrong business. If I moved over here, maybe that's where I'll find success because of who I am right now. It's like you're just like moving off of the process. You're moving off of the pursuit. And that's just like a huge loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I mean I've always told athletes this, and it was like the single biggest loss from my perspective as a coach would be if that individual doesn't continue to do the thing, right?
Mm,
Like the only goal is to develop the skills and the mindset and the passion and that pursuit to stay in it, right? Like the worst thing, and from my perspective, that could happen is you kill yourself to run a marathon. You do it, but you've burnt yourself out in the process, and you hang up your shoes, and you never. I mean, that happens all the time, right?
all the
And
time.
I pick a sport. That to me is the biggest L. That I mean that I think the only value of pursuing the thing is to stay in the thing, right? To like use the skills acquired in the pursuit of your first thing to do it again. And you can morph, right? You don't have to continue to be a marathon runner. You could, I mean, by all means, like we talked about at the top of this show, apply those skills, but stay in it. Stay in the pursuit. Make sure that consistency, make sure that you recognize the inherent value of doing that thing well, right? Forever.
Right. Because yeah, like it's not gonna happen in one training block. It's not gonna happen in
Yeah.
one quarter of
Yeah.
business, right?
Won't
It's
happen in
gonna
1 year,
won't
really,
happen in
right?
one.
Like
No, for
the
sure.
time periods are so much longer than we want to. We talked about that a little too. Is like sit in it. Like it's amazing what can happen in a few years, and that seems like a long time, but it's really not. When you, especially when you just engage in the pursuit and the process, it's amazing who you can become and like what you can accomplish and what you can see happen over a few seasons, right? If you just play the long game and settle in.
And this is just like the metaphor for endurance across everything else. Like it's just like almost a 1-to-1, right? Like you're
Yeah.
not going to get the results that you think you can get in a year. Like maybe, but like if you stretch it out on a long enough time horizon, like what you can accomplish is like exponential.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like that's why I love endurance so much. And like I just think it is such a great parallel for like everything else. It's like you have
Yeah.
to endure by
Yeah.
definition.
We literally just circled all the way back to the reason this podcast is titled Endurance Minded. It is the
Nice.
like mindset we require. Yeah, it's like we have landed
We did it.
squarely on why this podcast exists. Yeah, and even like if you do accomplish it in a year, imagine that skill set, like you said, with a longer time horizon. Like take that same thing and it's 10 years. Well, then what happens, right? Like if you did it in a year, what could be accomplished in 10 years, right? I mean, I really like to push people to like really extend, right? Everything needs, now it's like everything's supposed to happen faster. I'm like, why is fast the measure of success?
Mm.
Why not 2 decades, right? Like think about people that are great at anything. It's massive time horizons. It's not years, it's decades.
Right.
So settle it. Like, like I love to be like, no, like let's push it out. What about 15 year, 20, 30, like really scare people. Right. But that to me, it makes me so excited. I'm like, man, I hope that I can be talking about 30-year goals, 50-year goals, right? Like you and I are still young. Like how, like that gets me so fired up to hope that I have the opportunity to continue to stay in the process for really long periods of time for like everything in my life, right? Like I hope that this is just like when I look back, this is just early days, like infancy of my life as an entrepreneur, right? And that like the things that I can go on to create and do, I never would have thought about. But because I stayed in it long enough, it happens, right? 20, 30 years from now, 40 years from now.
There's just so much to learn, and people have done so much more and have gone in this process, started it earlier, worked way harder or whatever, and have just like seen like so many ways to go that it's endless for us, like it really is going to be that. It's like I'm never going to touch the full like capabilities and everything that needs to be done. So gotta keep going. Gotta see how far we can get. Gotta see how far we can get.
I love it. That's a stellar thing to end on. Thanks, Rich. You're awesome, man. I appreciate your insight. Appreciate your everything you bring to the industry and bring to athletes, and keep crushing it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Great chat.